Police and prison wardens wearing green block the road. Government employees plan to demonstrate and hand a petition to the Prime Minister. They want a 4.5% wage increase. But very few show up for this rally. Most people in Swaziland have never experienced democracy, and political parties are banned. This is an environment where the royal family is feared, but some workers are still defiant.
Teachers will not teach even under the barrel of a gun. Be they be police officers or army or anything, we are not deterred. We are not going to teach under these circumstances until we get what we want.
Teachers are now on what they call a go-slow. They show up for work, but they don't teach. At a high school in Bambane, students aren't learning, but their parents insist they still come to school.
Teachers have been given until Monday next week to return to the classroom, or else they will all be fired. But right now they're saying they're not going back to work.
Those in their final year try to teach themselves. Many are worried.
Teachers are not coming to school to teach us. Sometimes some of the subjects you haven't even finished the syllabus, so it's really hard on us.
King Mswati III is Africa's last absolute monarch. Forbes magazine says he's worth $200 million, but his country is running out of cash. 70% of his people live on less than $2 a day. The king's officials blame the financial crisis on a drop in trade from the Southern African Customs Union, a regional trade body. It also blames the global financial crisis. They say the kingdom can't afford wage increases, but civil servants don't believe them.
They're building many palaces for themselves, buying new cars for their children, and so on and so forth. So we don't believe the government. And also because just recently, the government improved the PACs, the benefits for politicians.
Swaziland has a House of Assembly and a Senate, but ultimately the king is in absolute control. There are no real checks and balances. The International Monetary Fund has suggested cutting back on public spending and reducing the size of the civil service. The government chose to freeze salaries. Teachers have been on strike for 5 weeks. Nurses and others in the public sector have joined in. As services grind to a halt, there is still no sign the king and his officials are going to give in to workers' demands. Haru Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Mbabane.
Mark Beacon from the Charity Action for Southern Africa says far more people are now demanding democratic change in Swaziland.
There's been a growing challenge over a number of years. I mean, this is a country that's going through a deepening economic and political crisis. We're talking about the only absolute monarchy in Africa. It's been under a state of emergency since 1973. And as your presenter there said, 70% of the population live in absolute poverty. Whereas we've seen a king and those surrounding him seeing a growing level of wealth for them and a growing level of poverty for others within the country. So this is naturally causing a great deal of anguish for the people of Swaziland, and you're seeing a growing and very united movement calling for democracy and rights and a fairer redistribution of income and wealth.
Timothy Simelane is the bureau chief for the Times of Swaziland. He joins me live on the line from the city of Manzini. Thank you for talking to us, Mr. Simelane. You've been out with the protesters every single day. What have they been telling you, and how do you think this is likely to play out? Who's going to buckle first?
Okay, currently at the moment, the teacher strike has dragged on for something like 6 weeks. And the public sector, the civil servants have been on strike for about 2 weeks. So the teachers are still on strike, and they are demanding their 4.5% salary increment, and they are saying they will not back down until the government accedes to their demands. Meanwhile, the public servants are saying the same, even though I should mention that some schools are operating because the teachers are not adhering to the resolution of their union to go on strike.
And how can the government justify saying no to their demands? They're asking for 4.5. Lawmakers have just awarded themselves a 30% increase. How do they justify that?
Okay, they have said that the secular one, which actually improves the living conditions of politicians, was budgeted for way before the financial or the economic crisis affected the country. So government is hiding behind that fact, saying that it's justified to increase the living conditions of politicians because it was budgeted for.
But how will the country ever pull itself out of its economic crisis when there are such disparities? You've also got your king, one of the richest royals in the world. I mean, he's just flown out a delegation of 66 people on a flight to the US to take part in gambling sessions in Las Vegas. I mean, is he just out of touch, or is there something a little bit more malicious than that?
Okay, the government currently is relying upon the advices by the IMF and the World Bank. The IMF has said that the circular that improves the living conditions of politicians must be withdrawn. And they've also said that the wage bill must be reduced. So now government is in the middle of this and that, because currently the government is saying that they can't reduce the wages of staff by retrenching them. The only thing is cutting the salaries by 10% or less than 10%. So, but then the public sector unions are saying they will not take that lying down.
Okay, so Timothy Simelane, thanks very much for giving us that insight from Swaziland.